All right. I am thrilled to welcome back Bob Machinist. He is the chairman and CEO of Troika Media Group. Back to the show. Bob has a tremendous amount of experience in a variety of industries, but he is our guru in branding. So let's dive in right away. Welcome back to the show, Bob.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me this morning and welcoming me back. I got to tell you, listening to your unstoppable intro was incredibly changing for me. I was thinking about that. How many things you've in the course of one's life, how many obstacles you have to overcome in order to be able to just continue to play, which is the important thing.
Oh my goodness. Well, that means so much to me, especially coming from you. You have such a breadth of experience, and I love your background and your story too. But yeah, I mean, it's true. We don't always get to choose the things that happen in our lives, do we?
No, there is a carpe diem aspect to many of these things, which is, it's up to you to seize the things that are going to, make and be transformative to your life. And sometimes they just take a long time to get there. And the route can be circuitous, to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely. I say, we don't always get to choose what happens to us, but we absolutely get to choose how we respond to it. So, and you've done an amazing job at that. I just love your background. I love talking to you. So thanks again for being with us today. So there's a bunch of things I want to talk to you about. But I want to hone in first on just the economy and where we are today, just with this, the inflationary situation that we're in. I mean, it's just 40, 50 years of just unprecedented really time that we're in today. And how does that correlate back to branding and what companies are doing? So first, maybe level set with the audience. Just remind everybody what you do and what you help companies with. But how are companies responding to this really difficult economical situation we're finding ourselves in?
Well, I think sort of like the Brazilian economy, this is a state of becoming, and I'm not exactly sure anybody really has a formula yet to figure out what to do. I had the experience early in my career. I lived through a couple of these cycles already. In the business that we're in the branding space and in the performance media space, it's really, it's a different set of problems. I don't think that the immediacy of interest rate hikes, et cetera, are the issue. I think that the moment of problem now, or the moment of choice, really relates to the experience that people are having of uncertainty in their future. And I think overall, I mean, it's both political, it's economic, it's world events. There are just so many exogenous forces getting us to think about things that we really didn't have to think about at this level for a long, long time. I think that the war in the Ukraine is seminal in changing, both sentiments, supply chain issues, economic issues, but most important, it underlies humanity issues, which I don't think any of us really expected to think about at this magnitude. We saw destruction in Syria. We know what's happened in Iraq. All the outflow, first from the first World Trade Center bombing, then from September 11th. I remember what I was doing on September 11th, and hard to believe that 20 odd years later, we're still struggling with many of the same kinds of things, and I think the problems have become exacerbated. And if you couple that with what appears to be just mega impact of global warming from a climatic basis, just within the United States, and look at the heat cycles right now, and the fires in California, and I read this horrible article recently about the drying up of the Great Salt Lake in Salt Lake City, which is now down to apparently 30% of its aquifer left. And the dust from the lake when there's a significant windstorm apparently has low levels levels of radioactivity, among other problems. So you just you can't fathom all these problems, and it's very hard to put them in a bucket. So I think people are just, can't believe they just came out of COVID. There now is, there's multiple new crises. No one knows who to blame, and then we end up in partisan politics to try to address issues that are not partisan at all in their basis. So a very long-winded and not necessarily responsive to your question, but that's how I view the world right now. You're accurate. It's like a butter churn.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we're talking to Bob Machinist, Chairman and CEO of Troika Media Group, stock symbol TRKA. You can find them at www.thetmgrp.com. So Bob,
By the way, I just want to correct you.
Oh.
I am the executive chairman of the board of Troika, and Sid Toma is now the CEO. So he was president, and he was running Converge when we bought it, and he has now assumed that title as well, and I am executive chair.
Got it. Well, executive chair is not too shabby either. So,
well, it's a job if you have to have one, so it's good.
No, for sure. So, I mean, I agree with everything we were just talking about, but in terms of just all of that and those outside pressures that we can't see coming, all of them, and they're not in our control. But as businesses, we do need to pivot. And what you do is really, help people with their branding, right? So just the correlation to, as all these external factors are happening, companies that invest in branding and choose to make sure they're keeping up with the things that are in their control and stay with the times are the ones that are really going to survive versus ones that don't keep up and invest and reallocate those funds, in the right way, will eventually maybe, dissolve or die out or even, get picked up by, another business if they're not smart about it. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's very clear. I think the most important takeaway, though, is that branding per se is not a reflexive exercise. Branding is something that, is thoughtful, a long-term planning, a long-term exercise. I think the implementation of the branding strategy can be a little bit more reflexive. But, I think that when you're dealing with some of the major brands that Troika addresses and the proprietary technology that's employed in addressing it, I think, you create a course, you stay a course. And, as people have been suggesting to investors in the stock market, you're not going to be able to time your way in and out of bear markets. You're doing this for a long-term play, and that's really what you're doing with branding. I think it behooves the branding client to take advantage of whatever technologies and methodologies are on vogue to expand their brand reach, and that's what really we try to do on behalf of our clients.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to get into more of that with you coming up. So more in a minute. So stay with us. We're talking to Bob Machinist of Troika Media Group. I'm Trish, and you're watching The Hunt. Stay tuned.
Thank you.